Hi, welcome to the Creative Mojo podcast. This is my podcast that's all about my love of knitting predominantly, although I do sometimes talk about sewing, which I will be talking about today. My name is Johanne and I'm the host, and I'm coming to you, as I always do, from my home in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. The lighting is particularly terrible today, and I do apologize, but that's partially because the lighting is more sensitive on my new phone, and that's what I record on. I'm obviously going to have to invest in some studio lights sometime soon to fix this problem permanently. But in addition to that, the lighting is terrible in general here today. It's a little bit later in the afternoon, but usually that's not so much a problem. But I rely on a combination of some indoor lights and light from outside when I record. And the light outside today is terrible. As you may very well know, certainly if you live in Canada, and I'm sure even in the US and around, people know, there's a tremendous number of forest fires burning in British Columbia, which is the province to the west of us here. And there's something at this point like 560-ish forest fires burning in BC. It's just a terrible situation. And I really feel for the people living particularly in the sort of Okanagan area of central British Columbia. Central southern, I guess, British Columbia. People who have been evacuated or who are under pending evacuation orders and all that kind of terrible stuff. And the the smoke from those forest fires the last week has just been coming over the mountains from British Columbia and flooding down onto the prairies here in Alberta, and the province is even over from us, and I'm sure down into the northern U.S. a bit, northwestern U.S. a bit as well. And so you can hear it too in my throat and my voice. I apologize, I'm going to be clearing my throat more than usual today. But our air has been just thick with forest fire smoke. It has come and gone a little bit on different days, but the beginning of this week was really bad. It just, everything, the sky is this weird yellowy sort of light because it's all filtering through the smoke. And so that's what's really impacting the light. Like all the light coming into my house today is very kind of weird and yellowy gray, brassy colored. And it smells like, a lot of days it just smells like living in the middle of a campfire. Today, it was, the last couple of days weren't so bad in terms of the smell, and it didn't feel quite so oppressive. It's back to being bad again today. And so also because of that, we end up having to keep all the windows in our house closed, which we don't normally do in the summertime because we don't have air conditioning, so we rely on fresh air. It's actually not horribly hot outside today, but it's just so smoky and smells so bad that you have to keep all the windows closed. You may hear a bit of fan noise in the background because I do have a fan going to try to keep the temperature not unbearable in the house with it all closed up like this. So anyway, that's my explanation to you for why the lighting is even worse than usual today. Anyway, and I launched right into that without saying, I wanted to say hello to any new viewers. It's really great to have you join me, and I hope you're going to enjoy the podcast. And a big warm hello to all my returning viewers. It's so nice to get a chance to talk to you again, and I hope you're all doing really well. This is episode number 52. Today, I'm recording today on Saturday, I believe it's the 17th of August. It's been, as usual, about 3 weeks. That seems to be my kind of normal pattern these days for recording, is about every 3 weeks. That's when I feel like, A, I have things to show you that are kind of interesting and different from the last time I recorded, and B, sort of what fits in with other things going on in my life. It's been a busy couple of weeks. Well, I've got a fair amount going on at work, plus, because we start this time of year, we're sort of gearing up to get busier into the fall thing. I work in the professional theater. I work these days for a theater company called One Yellow Rabbit, and we have a festival that happens every year in January, and in September we really start gearing up. We start bringing on some new staff that are with us through through the fall and through the festival and into February and all kinds of things like that. So I've had lots going on at work, and then I've had some stuff going on in my family life as well. I was going to mention, because I thought it might be a useful tip for some of you who are watching. As I mentioned before on the podcast, if you've watched me before, my father is suffering from dementia, and in the last year or so, it's really kind of ramped up a bit. He's having a lot more problems, and we're having to do a lot more things to help my stepmother through the process of all of that, and help my dad with where he's kind of at. He's doing all right. I mean, he's still in pretty good spirits and pretty good shape, and he still certainly remembers his family, and he remembers who he is and all of that. It's just he's at the point where he is very confused about sort of day-to-day details of things, and his short-term memory is pretty bad now. And so anyway, one of the things that I've been doing to help him and my stepmother is helping them get sorted out with some technology issues in their home. I discovered fairly recently, when my stepmother had a problem with her cell phone, and trying to help her with the problem she was having with her cell phone led me down the path of discovering that they actually had all kinds of issues going on with all of their technologies, computer and internet, and their phones and all of that. And what I came to realize was that my father had been the one who had dealt with all of that for a long time, and as he had reached the place where he wasn't really capable of that anymore, my stepmother had just been letting it all slide because she didn't really know anything about it or really understand how any of it worked. And neither my sister or I realized the sort of severity of the problem, how bad it had gotten, until this problem with the phone then revealed all the other problems. And I tried to do one small fix to help her, which started with trying to actually run an update on her. She had an older version of an iPhone. I think it's an iPhone 5 she had. And it needed an update, and I discovered it had never been updated, and it had never been backed up. And I ended up helping her get a new phone, but then it led to a whole bunch of other discoveries about the fact that they have Wi-Fi in their house, but they haven't been able to access it for who knows how long. They've lost she doesn't know any of the passwords to anything really anymore, and my dad, of course, can't remember them. There's stuff written down, but there's 25 or 30 different little pieces of paper with different information on it, and it doesn't all... It was the things I could find, I couldn't kind of connect what passwords went to what, and the ones I tried, nothing did worked. And so it's been a very long and involved process of helping her with the phone, and with Talus, who's the phone provider here, her cell phone provider. And then that led me into having to deal with a bunch of stuff with their iCloud account, and getting that set up so we could back up her phones. And we had to go to an appointment at the Apple store, and then I realized her laptop was in very dire shape and probably is a goner. It's probably this much from being a brick, really. So I'm having to get somebody out to the house to look at they also have quite a good desktop Mac computer, which I think is salvageable but needs some work. And it led me to, and I've got to get somebody out to figure out the problem with the Wi-Fi, how we basically reset that. So it's ended up with multiple visits, multiple calls, multiple appointments. And of course, these days, whenever you call service providers on that kind of stuff, you can't, it takes forever to actually speak to a real person, and you often have to schedule a call back. And so it's taken up a tremendous amount of my time, and I think 3/4 of the way through getting it solved, and feeling now like the end is in sight, but it's been quite a bit of work. And what it did lead me to think about, and I've been sharing with some of my friends, and thought I'd mention to you that if you have aging parents, and if your parents have technology in their house, check on it. Check that they have things that are up to date and still working, and that you know where their passwords are and all those kinds of things before it gets to this stage. I am not an expert by any means, and I don't know a lot. I know enough to help them to help my stepmother figure out how we solve it, and I certainly know enough to know who to ask to go to solve those problems. But I'm by no means a computer expert or anything like that. But I just thought, wow, great thing to pass on to learn from my situation. If, as I said, if you have family members who are not technology savvy and they have technology in their house and they're aging, it's great to periodically check in on all that and make sure it's working, and before it gets to be, as I described to my sister the other day, I said discovering the problem with the phone was like this tiny, tiny little tip of ice poking out of the water, and I thought that's all there was, and then I discovered there was this massive, massive iceberg unseen under the water that was about to capsize the ship, you know. So anyway, that's my public service announcement for today. But let me get to why I'm here to talk to you. As always, I talking about my knitting, and I have some fun things to show you this week. I actually have primarily all new projects since I recorded last. I don't have any finished objects, so I haven't finished anything that I was working on before, but I have been kind of bad, and I cast on some new things. Predominantly, the things I was working on before were the two sweaters I sort of actively have on the needles, and I have a couple of others parked away somewhere, but were my Birkin sweater and my Weekender sweater, both of which are out of slightly heavier and woolly wool, and the temperatures we've been having, as I said, it's cooler today, but about 2 weeks ago we had some incredibly hot temperatures. We had actually record-breaking temperatures for here in Alberta. It got up into the high 30s Celsius, like 37, which is about 100 degrees Fahrenheit, and is not temperatures we ever normally get here. Our average hottest temperatures are probably more like the high 80s Fahrenheit, like 32, something like that. So this was pretty stinking hot, especially for a place that a lot of homes don't have air conditioning. Lots of businesses do. Thankfully, like my work has air conditioning, so I kind of wanted to stay at work more those couple of days that it was super, super hot. But all that to say that I couldn't bring myself to sort of haul out the heavy woolly wool sort of projects that I was working on. So that led me to cast on a new sweater, which I'll show you in a minute. And I also cast on a new shawl. It was my husband's birthday about a week ago. 6 days ago, the 11th of August was his birthday. And I've been promising him a shawl that I say shawl, but really it would be a scarf for him as a guy. I mean, I guess some guys, I shouldn't say that. Some men do wear shawls and wear them very well, and it's a shawl shape, but he'll wear it like a scarf, is what I mean to say. And he'd requested this a while ago, and we'd picked up the yarn together, and I really hadn't done anything about it other than store the yarn downstairs with all the other yarn. And so I was asking him what he wanted for his birthday, and he said that he wanted he thought I could knit him something, and he started with, well, do you want to knit me a sweater? And I said, well, I would be happy to do that. It would probably be ready for your birthday next year because, you know, at the rate that I'm going with all the sweaters I have already on the needles for myself. But then he said, well, or that shawl that you know, that we talked about a long time ago. So I got that all assembled, wound the yarn, did all that, and cast that on, and have been working on that as well. So let me show you. I'm going to start actually by showing you a little bit of work, progress on the one thing that is not new since we spoke last, or since I spoke with you last, and that is my Vintage Fairy Light Socks by Vera Valimaki, which I've shown you lots before. I did cast on the first one, did the first sock. I cast this on at Christmas this year, a while ago, and finished the first sock several months ago, and I'm finally making some really good progress on the second sock. I am past the gusset now, you can see, and just into the straight knitting on the foot of the sock, and I should be able to finish these up really quickly now because it is now just 3x1 ribbing on the top and stockinette on the bottom, all the way to the end, so super until the toe, super easy. And I showed a little closer, so that is a bit better in terms of what the yarn looks like. I'm using Woolen Boon in Woolen Boon Classic, which is her merino nylon sock blend in the color Robin Sparkles. And I need to crack on and just finish the second sock. And I discovered the other day when I tried these on that they are just ever so short, so ever so, yeah, like maybe that much. Too short for my foot. They're not super comfortable. They're a little tight in the toe. So now I've decided these are going to actually be a gift for my sister. These will probably go into my gift pile for a Christmas present. My sister or my mother, who both have feet slightly smaller than mine, just perfect for socks that are a little too small for my feet. So anyway, so that I worked on those a bit since I spoke to you last. And then, as I said, I cast on some new things. So the thing that has seen probably the most work since I last recorded is another sweater project, but a lighter weight sweater project that I have been making some really good progress on, and I'm really, really excited about. And this is something that's been in my queue for a very long time, since the project really came out. And I had the yarn, I've had the yarn in my stash for at least a year, maybe closer to 2 years, or maybe a year and a half, anyway. And that's the Breathing Space by Vera Valmaki, which you probably have seen before because many, many people have knit this sweater before me. But I pulled out the yarn and I'm making some pretty good progress. You can see this is about a week worth of working on this. I have obviously finished the raglan increase. It's a top-down raglan, fingering weight sweater. I finished the raglan increases. I separated for the sleeves, and I'm now into the body. It's really fun. It's just been flying along because it's really fun. It's got these great stripes in the body, and I am just about halfway through the part of the body where you do a lot of short rows. So that it's hard to show you at this point, but if I can, let's see if I can show that the stripes start coming in at an angle there when you do all the short rows, and you can see that. So I'm about 2/3 of the way through that part of the body. When I complete all the short rows, then you go back to knitting in the round, and away you go. So I actually am really pleased with how quickly this is coming together, and I think that if I stay focused on this, this will be, I would say, by the next time I record, there's a really good chance that this sweater is going to be done, which is great, just in time for fall. It's a nice lightweight, as I said, it's a fingering weight sweater. I'm using Malabrigo sock, as I said, which has been in my stash for a while. I bought the yarn specifically to make this sweater, which is nice. And the two colors I'm using, this dark color, which I don't know how true that's going to look to you, but then I mean it's also a kind of a hard color. That's maybe pretty decent. It's a hard color, even in natural. It changes colors a lot. The name of it is it's a Spanish word, Alcocil, I think maybe is how you say that. Totally sure. I know that what it means in Spanish is artichoke, and it is this, in some lights it looks black, in some lights it looks like a very dark black brown or slight purple tone. I think probably the truest it is like a black with a green tint to a dark green tint, as the tips of artichokes can be. Did I say artichoke before? I think I did. As the tips of artichokes can get that very, very dark blacky green, and that's essentially what this color really is. But it is fun because that it does sort of look different in different lights. A lot of the time it just looks like a black, but it's much more complex than a black. And it's really nice. And this is the first time I've knit any sort of larger project with Malabrigo sock, and I'm really actually enjoying it. It's softer than I thought it was going to be. It feels really nice to knit with. It's nice and lightweight. If you don't, I'm sure you know Malabrigo, but Malabrigo sock it's a 100% superwash merino. It will grow a bit when I block it. I do know that because I have knit with other Malabrigo sweaters with other Malabrigo yarns before, just not the sock weight. And the contrast color I'm using for the stripes is Turner, it's called, which is also not good. It is a goldy browny green, like yellowy, gold, yellow, brown, green. I'm just doing great at describing colors here, but it's a really nice contrast to the other color, to the darker color. And I think it's going to be, they're nice and neutral. This will actually go with lots of my wardrobe. Yeah, I'm really liking this. I'm really enjoying it. So that's been getting a lot of work while I sit in front of a fan and watch TV. I was laughing the other day saying that when it was so hot here, I was sitting with 2 fans on me and my feet in a bucket of cold ice or cold water, because that helps cool me down a lot, and still knitting, but knitting on something lightweight, thankfully. Oh, and I'm going to show you, I have one other project that I did cast on. I have not done very much on it, and I'm not sure how I feel about it. I did actually cast on the Tanya sweater by Caitlin Hunter, which I talked about in maybe 2 episodes back, about the fact that I was contemplating it, and I have started it. I've got that much up, which is beginning of the lace. It's out of Ancient Arts and her BFL sock blend. I don't have the tag on me, so I don't, unfortunately. I think it's Prussian blue is the color. And I think it's a BFL nylon. I did some on it, and then I don't know, I wasn't feeling the love of the lace. I think I will go back to it. It's not a lot of lace. I mean, you can get about that much, maybe that much lace on the bottom, and then it's all stockinette. And I really definitely know I want the finished product of this. So I don't know, but I did some work on it, as I said, and then I kind of got stalled off. So we'll see what happens with that. But it's another thing I did work on a bit since we talked last. I actually worked on that a little bit. I went to since I recorded last, I went to a knit night, which was super fun. I don't get a chance. I think there are some local knit nights. I'm sure there are some local knit nights here in Calgary. I don't know about a lot of them, and I don't often get a chance to do things like that because significant portions of the year I have a job that requires me to work evenings, and my schedule just doesn't always work out with that kind of thing. But I had some friend, Marcia, who's Fairy Little and does the it's not the Fairy Little podcast. I'm so sorry, Marcia, why I can't remember the name of your podcast right off the top of my head. I will put it on the screen here. But Marcia, who's Fairy Little on Instagram, was visiting from BC with her sister, Scylla. And I met Marcia a few times, and she and Scylla are both really great people. I really love them. And so a couple of other friends of mine from here, my friend Carla, who has the Knitnicks podcast. I'm terrible today. I'll put all these podcasts, not on the screen. I'll put them all in the show notes, and I'll try and remember to put them actually down below here on YouTube as well. But Carla organized a knit night over at her house, and there was a couple of people I hadn't met before. That was super great to meet them. And my friend Kim, who I've talked about before, who's Ginger Snap That, I gave away a bag of hers, and I've got some yarn that I'm going to be giving away, and she's just a doll as well. So it was really fun. I went over for the evening, and we all hung out and visited, and that was so lovely. And that's where I did most of what I did on that, and a little bit of work on the socks. And I wish I could do that more often. We did talk about trying to organize, with Carla, we talked about trying to organize that a little more often to get together, because I think we all really enjoyed it. So the other thing I've been working on is the shawl that I mentioned. So the pattern is called the Groovy Shawl, and this is something I've actually knit before. It's a shawl I wear all the time, like a scarf in the winter. I really, really like it. And it was, as I said, my husband looked at it and went, in the kind of right colors, that could look really cool as a man's sort of scarf, as bandana style scarf as well. And this is a kind of crappy picture of what it looks like. It's obviously wearing it as a shawl, and that's wearing it as more of a bandana. It's better. I should have brought my one to show you, but I didn't. But it's a really nice, simple pattern. It's stockinette, but it's reverse stockinette, so you do sections where the stockinette side shows and sections where the purl side shows, and you just do decreases all along one side and stuff, and increases and decreases. Sorry, I'll show you what I mean. So this is, it looks smaller than it is. I actually did quite a bit of this. I did this all last weekend. Cast it on and got a decent amount of waste. So when I stretch it out, there's actually that much of it. And as you can see, and that's the reason why it's kind of a cordoning up, is that some parts are stockinette and some parts are reverse stockinette. And on this side, it has these little jogs, if you can see, where every time you complete a section, you bind off a few stitches, and then you're always increasing on this side. And it's a 2 skein shawl. It's great. The one I did for myself is in a quite highly variegated and speckled yarn, and it looks great in that. And then this is in a nice, simple, this is Madeline Tosh. It's Tosh Merino Light. It's a single ply, and it's in the color Whiskey Barrel. That's actually not too bad right there. Which is a lovely, rich brown with little bits of gold and copper and stuff in it. I think, as I said, my husband picked this color out for himself, and it'll go with lots of his winter. He has a couple of really nice sort of caramel color. He has a beautiful caramel colored sort of lightweight winter leather coat and stuff like that. But this will go really great with. I have not knit a lot with single ply. I don't know why, but I'm enjoying it. It feels so soft and silky to knit with. I do have, a little bit of it in my stash, but as I haven't knit very much with it. I know this will pill more than a plied fingering weight yarn, and I worry a tiny bit about the pilling of it, because, as we know, men have whiskers, 5 o'clock shadows, and I knit Tim a lovely cowl that he really likes to wear, but that it does, if he hasn't shaved that day, or it does pill a bit around the whisker area. So this may suffer a little bit from that, but I know he will really like it and get lots of use out of it, so that's okay. I'll just give it a deep pilling every once in a while. So there's that. And that is all of my knitting at only 27 minutes in. And a bunch of that talking about weather and forest fires and my dad and his wife and their technology and stuff. So, but I do want to show you one other thing. Last episode I talked about sewing, and as you see hanging behind me here, I completed a sewing project, which I'm very excited about. This is the Hinterland dress by So Liberated, and I did this last weekend, no, the weekend before. I did this in 2 days. I really enjoyed it. It was a big step up for me in terms of sewing. As I explained last episode, I am not a particularly experienced sewer at all. So this involved lots of new techniques for me, and so it was really gratifying to finish it. Now, I will say the one downside is, sorry, I have, from the single ply, I have fiber on my nose. Anyway, I made it too big. And I was talking about plus size patterns and finding sizes and stuff, and I was so excited to find that So Liberated, a lot of her patterns go up to larger sizes, and I just made the largest size, because I thought that would, I did look at the measurements, but I sometimes have this problem where I tend to think I need larger clothes than I actually need. So I made the largest size in this, and it's too big. So, but that's okay. I knew that this was essentially going to be a wearable muslin, and it is. And if you don't sew, what that basically means is that you make a sort of trial version before you use your good fabric and make the version that you really, really hope you'll be wearing. And I totally can wear this. I may not wear it out a lot because it is predominantly in the bodice. Like, it's too big all in through here. It's probably, you could probably use almost an inch out of it in the bodice. And so I am in the process of retracing and cutting out the pattern again to a smaller size, and I am going to make it again. I'll show you in a minute. I do have some fabric to make another one in a smaller size. I think I'll make exactly the same, I think. Well, I might make it with sleeves, but so this version I made there's several different options of this pattern. See if you can see here. There are options with sleeves, as you can see there, and sleeveless, and there are options as I did that the placket just comes to here and then it's a full skirt, or there's ones where you could extend the placket all the way down. There's two different hem lengths as well. So I made the shorter hem length, so it's you'd wear it with leggings or over jeans or whatever, with just the placket at the top. Now those were the sort of techniques that were exciting and new for me, was putting in the placket. I gotta take it off the hanger now. Doing buttonholes, that was totally new for me, and took me a little bit of a try, including the first, and I tested out, watched some videos, figured out how to use the buttonholer on my machine, tested it out on some scrap fabric first. It was all great, and I was ready to go to sew the first buttonhole on my on the actual dress. What I didn't realize is that there's a little lever that you have to push in, and you have to redo that every time you make a new buttonhole. When you finish, it sort of resets itself, and you have to push that lever in again, and I didn't realize that. So I started on here, and it just sewed back and forth at the bottom of the buttonhole over and over and over and over and over and over and over. And I had to pick all that out, which was quite the adventure. But anyway, I did, and it all worked out great. I'm very pleased with it. Put these cute little kind of cream colored buttons that go nicely with the fabric. I did interfacing on the placket as it calls for the pattern. I'm really pleased with how it worked, how I did the facings around the with how they turned out, the facings around the sleeves and the neckline. It all looks really good, actually. The only, I had a tiny bit of an issue with one of the, it's here. It has a set in pockets, and I somehow got the pocket, you kind of see that's not the cleanest. It looks much better on the other pocket. You can see it looks just fine on this pocket, but so I messed up a tiny bit there. But again, this is my first try. Very happy with how it turned out, even despite the sizing issues. I did kind of think, oh, is there a way to go in and make it a little smaller, but I don't think, like, it's just basically too wide in through here, which, yeah, it's just too loose on the top. Basically, it is how it is. So I think it will be a lot better sizing it down and sewing it again, and I don't mind doing it again. And I think that if I settle on a better size, then I might make a couple of other versions of it, maybe with the try the sleeves next. And I also like the version that has the placket going with the buttons going all the way down through the skirt too. So, and this is the fabric I think I'm going to use on the next one. I actually discovered that I had this fabric. I don't even remember when I got this fabric. I got it ages ago. It was sitting in the back of my linen closet. I bet I got this fabric 10 years ago, so I can't even tell you what I got it for. It was before I had a sewing machine. But anyway, I discovered that I had this huge swath of fabric, and it's a nice, lightweight, drapey, it's probably a polyester predominantly. It's in a plaid, which I always like, and I like the colors. So I'm going to make one out of this. So I've just finished washing and drying that fabric, and as I said, I'm in the process of cutting out a new, a smaller version of the pattern, and we'll go from there. And I have some exciting plans to sew a couple of other the Sew Liberated patterns. I have her metamorphic dress, which is a really cool pattern. If you don't know it, you should check it out. Again, she's Sew Liberated. I found her and her patterns and stuff through Instagram. She's Sew Liberated on Instagram, and there are links on her homepage to her website and all her patterns. And and she's got a really nice skirt that I'm going to get. I don't have that pattern yet, but I'm going to get it. I did, the patterns are PDF downloads, and that you buy online. You can actually, I think, order them through the mail to be mailed as well, but I didn't want to wait. So I ordered the PDF, and of course it does come with the many pages. I don't know if you experience it, that you can either print out in this size of paper and then you put them all together, or it comes with a PDF for printing out on large paper to cut out that way. And I actually put that PDF for the large size shop print, I think it's called, print shop version. I put that PDF on a memory stick, and I went to Staples and they printed it out for me. They weren't able to do it in one sheet because it's quite huge, but they were able to do it in 3 large sheets, and that worked out much better than, it was like $10, I think, and it was well worth it to me, that $10, to not have to print it all out in 8.5 by 11 and put it all together that way. So anyway, so yeah, that's my sewing adventures, and I have a couple more projects definitely planned. I think I showed you last time, I have some more fabrics, and so it's just about on the weekends hauling out the sewing machine. And I have to figure out something for having a little bit more permanent of a sewing space in my house. I basically use the dining room table, so I have to take it all out, set it up to sew, and then put it all away again. But works out fairly well on the weekends when my husband is away. Anyway, the last thing quickly I want to mention, and I'm going to do it quickly because I'm starting to get very warm here, and is that we just want to remind you that we have a year-long CAL going on in the group. That's our pattern socks CAL. If it started at the beginning of January and it's going until the end of December, it's for any socks you knit all year long that are patterned, cables, lace, texture, color work, anything like that. Anything that's not a plain vanilla sock. No self-striping unless there's pattern to this, like unless you're creating pattern, texture, or whatever. But there are lots of entries in there, and every 2 months I draw from that same thread and give away a prize. So you can enter as many times as you want, as many projects as you knit, as long as they started after January 1st and end before December 31st. And the projects will be out. The only thing that will not be eligible is if I redraw the same actual single project that I drew for a previous prize. I won't count that. I'll redraw again for a different one. But any other project, if you've won one prize for one pair of socks, you're still eligible for any other pairs of socks you knit. Like I said, you can enter as many times as you want. There's just one thread for the whole year. There's over 100 socks in there already. It's great. And the next giveaway for that is going to be the end of August, sorry, the 1st of September, basically. So coming up fairly soon. So if you've got pattern socks that you have knit this year and you haven't entered them in the CAL, get on it. And I haven't decided for sure what I'm going to give away for the next prize. I think I may give away a skein of sock yarn again, but I will show that to you next time. And yeah, that's it. Thanks so much for coming to watch, and I really appreciate each and every one of you. And until I talk to you next time, happy knitting.